Alright, just in case you missed the announcement the other day, and it's live right now, if you go to the What Culture Wrestling YouTube community feed, you will see a lovely poll that will make your eyes happy, and there are 4 shows there to do, wait for it, a retro ups and downs. That's right, you've been asking for it, and this bald asshole is gonna give it to you. So we are going back 20 years to the year 2000. You can vote on the Royal Rumble 2000, you can vote on Judgment Day 2000, you can vote on Fully Loaded 2000, and you can vote on Armageddon 2000. And whichever one wins, you've got around about 24 hours, I will up the downs for that show this Friday at 2 p.m. BST. And if you want more of it, we're gonna do it every single week. And of course, on the actual Retro Ups and Downs show, in the comments, you can suggest what we do next. Ooh-da-lally. So make sure you keep an eye out for that. Unless you're Rey Mysterio, you've only got one eye, and I would rather use that for doing things like driving your car and making sure you can cross the street okay. But for now, we're gonna stay up to date, and we're up in those downs for Monday Night Raw. Alright, look, here's the deal. If you give me 4 magic beans, I will give you my herd of cattle. I don't know why I made that joke. Just sometimes people say, here's the deal, but they're not actually telling you a deal. I don't know what we're talking about. But basically, we're all started by Randy Orton coming out and saying, listen to me, I'm better than Stone Cold Steve Austin, I'm better than The Rock, and when I woke up this morning, I decided I wanted to be the WWE champion. I'm not making that up, that's what he said. So, whereas you and I get up and go, hey, breakfast, I'm so excited, Randy Orton gets up and goes, I want to be a champion, and then he goes and has his Frosties. He then started ragging on Drew McIntyre and saying that he was so full of himself 10 years ago, he went and got himself fired, and he got fired in 2014, Randy, but it was a good try. Maybe you need to do a little bit more maths. But said he had redeemed himself by whooping Brock Lesnar's ass at WrestleMania. But he doesn't care about any of all that, because he wants to have a go for the belt at SummerSlam 2020, which by my watch, which I'm not wearing, is around about 1 month's time. And this is great too. It makes perfect sense in terms of the characters and where they've been and where they're going. But the problem was, this is yet another World Championship match being decided by some dude just walking into the ring and going, listen mate, I've been thinking about it. Can I please have a shot at your gold? And the other guy later on goes, yes you can, my lovely little piglet. All you had to do was plant the seed around about 8 weeks ago that Randy Orton was legend killing again because he believed it was going to be his pathway to the title. He could have said that in the amount of time I just said it. It's a bit like the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment, the surprise roll-up really. It's a useful tool, but if you overuse it, that tool becomes blunt and I start to get less interested in it. Because we did the exact same thing with Dolph Ziggler, we did the exact same thing with Bobby Lashley, we literally did it with The Big Show, because he came out after WrestleMania and went, match please, and Drew went, yeah. So it just means it's a little bit dull, and I just want something different, or at least a narrative that I can sink my teeth into, which makes this very problematic, because of course Orton was great here, his momentum right now is through the roof, but outside of that, when you start swimming through the depths, well, it doesn't feel like there's a bottom. I don't know what that means. That's absolute gibberish, but the point is getting it down, even though it shouldn't get it down. This is all based on the context of WWE, and that makes me sad. Randy Orton then left the ring, and Nia Jax was back. Where has she been? Did anybody tell us? Of course they didn't. I suppose she just decided, I don't want to come to work. So she didn't come to work. If only we could all do that. Just to back my point up too, she also agreed with Randy Orton that she had woken up. She didn't fancy cereal, but she did fancy the Raw Women's Championship. But look, and if it's this easy, I'll do it. I want a championship shot. I don't care. I'll take on absolutely everyone. I'll take on Shelton Benjamin for the 24/7 title. Also, if it does work like this, I'll have a new car. Anyway, she was super proud because, of course, last time we did see Nia, she took out Charlotte Flair, who has also vanished into dust, although to be fair, WWE did tell us that she's been injured, and just as I think she was about to challenge even Asuka or Sasha Banks for that spangly piece of gold, she got interrupted, if you can believe it, by Shayna Baszler. Baszler came down and basically said that no one gives a crap about what Nia Jax thinks, and then they started to brawl. And this was very intriguing to me because in many ways, they are the same character, just like, angry heels bad guys that go out there and destroy people. My only worry is that if this is going to be a feud and Shayna loses, and let's face it, Shayna could very well lose, those maniacs on the internet that think if you took a real MMA fighter and put them against a big person that is not an MMA fighter, that size would overcome this trained athlete, which, by the way, is absolutely ridiculous. But I tell you, I was intrigued. Like I say, I was intrigued. I don't know where we're going to go with this, so it's going to get it up. It gets ruined in about 5 minutes, but from here, it's getting it up. We were then having a triple threat tag team match between Ricochet, Cedric Alexander versus the Viking Raiders versus Andrade and Angel Garza. And while you could argue that Ricochet and Cedric Alexander should not be here, because I'm pretty sure over the last few weeks they have won a grand total of 0 matches, the talent in this thing was ridiculous. It, of course, gets it up. The Street Profits did the introductions, and I almost had a minor heart attack when they announced Cedric and Ricochet as the Fly Boys. I was like, that's not their name, is it? We're not calling them the Fly Boys, and thankfully it is not official. And I knew this was going to be good when Angel Garza whipped off his pants and just held them right in the Street Profits' face. I don't know why I like clothes being held around, but I do. We did go out of our way to make Ricochet look like a moron here, because of course at one point he was teaming with Andrade because needs must. And after Andrade had done some sort of like bad guy shenanigans, Ricochet was like, oh, did you mean to do that? And Andrade was like, no, of course I didn't. And as soon as Rick turned his back, Andrade just twonked him. Ricochet, what were you thinking, you idiot? Ivar also did this crazy dive over the top rope, which would have been nuts anyway, but when you remember the size of the man, you can't believe it. But because Garza is a smart tamale, he got out the way, he was able to slip into the ring, he gave Cedric Alexander the wing clipper, got the victory for his team, so that's now set for SummerSlam. Andrade and Angel Garza taking on the Street Profits for the Tag Team Championships. And again, go back to the intro, we've been building this. Zelina Vega even said it was the plan. Now the plan's going in the right direction. This was good. Andrade and Angel also attacked the Street Profits afterwards because they were on commentary, and a small, teeny, tiny part of me actually wants them to win. I think they're a good team. Then by magic, we were getting Baszler versus Nia Jax. And I was like, all right, yeah, cool, let's do that. We never do that usually. I feel like, we're plowing along, we're doing different things. And it was absolute nonsense. Down. Because it finished with a double countout. And I don't even think this went 60 seconds. So why didn't you just take that minute and plug it onto the back of the brawl they had earlier instead of doing another brawl here? Because yeah, they fought outside the ring and the referee went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then eventually they got broken up by security and officials. Instead, we just put them in the ring and then we took them out the ring and we once again kind of told our audience or taught our audience, don't ever invest in a match because you're probably not actually going to get a finish. Given how this went too, I have all the fear in the world that the end is nigh for Shayna Baszler. So much so that water started to come out of my eye. I wasn't crying, because sometimes it happens. Unless, of course, you're Rey Mysterio, he's down to 50%. Seth Rollins was then backstage with Murphy and asked him, are you with me? And I hope he didn't mean that literally, because he was right in front of Seth, and then I'd be worried about his vision too. Murphy's whole worry, though, is what is Dominic gonna do later, because these three are gonna have a clash in the ring. And Seth all calmed him down and did his usual, oh, it's about the greater good and don't know, I know what I'm talking about. And then there was a really weird segment where Mark Henry was just having a conversation with Bianca Belair and Ruby Riott. I mean, you tell me. It was Ron Siemens last week. This week it's Mark Henry. I suppose just one legend a week has to roll down into Raw. And if they are going to be there, why isn't Randy Orton punt kicking their heads off? And then I tell you, Raw went nuts, like Michael Keaton in that first Batman movie, when he was all like, you want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. It kicked off as expected because Seth and Murphy were telling us, look, everyone needs to stop going after Rollins because look what happens. Kevin Owens had a bad ankle. Aleister Black now has a bad arm. And Rey Mysterio doesn't have a flipping eye. It doesn't end well for people, so we should just draw a line under it, and that includes Dominic, although as Ray Jr. is here, he should come out to the squared circle so we can just calm this down. And Seth had his arms open and he was all ready to help Dominic before he went absolutely crazy. Because he started flying around the place, taking out Seth Rollins and taking out Don't Call Him Buddy Murphy, and he looked so good here. He has, like, I don't know, the smoothness of a swan. That Mysterio family, they are just born to wrestle. He's getting it up. He was properly in control for a while too, but of course the numbers game eventually caught up to him as Don't Call Him Buddy Murphy and Seth Rollins started to beat him down. Aleister Black was out to try and make the save, but you know the saying, don't try and be a one-eyed man in an ass-kicking contest because you're going to lose. Surprise, surprise, old Al lost. But then Rollins started staring at those damn steps, all like, I know what we have to do. I know what we have to do. And he told Murphy, take Black, take his head and stick it into the steel steps because he has to have his eyeball taken out as well. Now, Buddy didn't want to do this, but then like Seth Rollins slapped him in the face and all of a sudden he turned into a robot like, I will do what you say. And yeah, that's what he did. For no reason though, just as the pupil was about to be extracted, Seth Rollins went, oh no, don't do that, Murphy. And he pulled him off. This would be like Hannibal Lecter doing his whole spiel about I eat people, I'm a cannibal, and then when you witness it, he's just nibbling on someone's fingernails. You are either in or you're out, Seth, and he looked doubly dumb after this, because then Dominic was back with a kendo stick and started to wham it and wave it right in their stomachs and their heads. So ultimately, there was no point not to do it. You did it with Ray, you clearly want to carry on this reign of terror, but you just didn't. Down. Once again, officials broke all this up, and I think Dominic looks far better than I expected him to, and dare I say it, maybe he is ready for a proper match at SummerSlam. And I, for one, would like to see it, hence why my hand has gone up. Why not? R-Truth then called Mustafa Ali Mufasa as if he was some kind of lion in the sky. I know that's dumb, I know it's stupid, but I laughed. Anyway, Truth was worried that Ali was going to go after the 24/7 championship that he wants to get back, but he let him know, no, Truth, that's not the case. I just have a match with Bobby Lashley later, but first I'm going to go on MVP's VIP lounge. And then it was time for that, and you know what we do when MVP is in the ring, we say hell yeah, and we give it up. And it was another one of his talk shows, but it was badass straight away, because you had MVP, and you had Shelton Benjamin, the new 24/7 champion, and you had Bobby Lashley stood there, and they're just such a good group. It's a nice visual. And their guest was Ali, as already noted, and the whole point here was MVP saying, look, you don't want to challenge Bobby Lashley, you don't want to challenge me, you don't want to go after my United States title, what you want to do is you want to come on board. Otherwise, you're just going to be another Apollo Crews. He did the same thing that you're hinting that you want to do, and now he's at home on his bum without any success in the world. I want you to have success, but you've got to join me. So it's like, you know, Darth Vader and the Emperor, and Ali is Luke Skywalker, and much like that chump, he said no. As if he just transported in from another dimension, R-Truth did then pop up and try and beat Shelton Benjamin for the 24/7 belt, but unfortunately he wasn't able to, and then yeah, we did indeed have Bobby Lashley versus Mustafa Ali. Now this did seem very strange to me, because in my wrestling world, you don't want to beat Bobby Lashley, he's like your big tough guy, and you want to make him feel like a brick wall that you can't smash down, but Ali only came back 7 days ago and he got this massive victory over MVP, so you want to beat him. Now, he's a star in the making, he wants to have all the power in the world, but this is WWE, and of course, he lost. What a piece of trash, it's a down. He got owned here too, I mean like owned. It went around about 10 minutes, and I think Ali probably got in around about 80 seconds worth of offense, and I just can't figure this stuff out. I mean, there was some nonsense when the ninjas were back out here, because only the ninjas care about the 24/7 title along with R-Truth, but they got fought off. And then yeah, after Ali did jump off the ropes or he went for some kind of move, Bobby Lashley caught him in the full Nelson, and he just tapped out. Because we all know the full Nelson hurts more than the dentist. And I know it doesn't really matter, but if you are going to build new stars, they have to get victories. And it's nothing bad against Bobby Lashley, but now he's just gone down like Cedric Alexander went down, like Apollo Crews went down, and like Ricochet went down. So instantly, almost instinctively, I go, oh, well, I guess he's just like everybody else. Just why have him beat MVP 1 week and then lose to Bobby Lashley the next week? I know the answer is 50-50 booking, but 50-50 booking gets old very, very fast. It is fine though, because WWE then didn't come up with the biggest cop-out finish in 2020 when Sasha Banks and Asuka met for the Raw Women's title. Hang on a minute, I got something wrong there. No, they did come out with a cop-out finish. Oh my God. All of this did start brilliantly because Sasha Banks and Bayley were out and they started running everybody down, including Stephanie McMahon, and they're just so good at it, before Asuka and Kairi Sane were there. Now, however, Kairi Sane chased Bayley away to the back, and this was perfect because now you just had two top-tier talents about to do some top-tier talent wrestling. And that's exactly what this was, and there was a great bit when Sasha Banks tried to pull an Eddie Guerrero by chucking the belt towards Asuka and be like, oh, she tried to hit me with it. But unfortunately, she did this right in front of the referee. So it'd be the equivalent of like some kid in the cookie jar eating cookies while the dad watches on going, stop eating cookies. And they're like, I'm not eating cookies. Like, stupid child you clearly are. The match itself was pure fire too. Banks decided to work over Asuka's leg. So Asuka was like, ow, my knee the whole time. But she kept pulling off these amazing mini comebacks, like catching Sasha Banks off the top rope with a code breaker that looks like it shattered her mouth. And this was to such a high level, I was like, you don't even need to go into winners and losers here, because whoever gets the decisive pinfall or submission, the other person has been so damn good, it will just be a round of applause everywhere. They're both so talented, they have great chemistry, so for all of that, it has to get it up. Because this is WWE though, we're only ever allowed to do 3 finishes, which of course are distraction finish, surprise roll-up finish, or count-out finish. And we went with one of those 3, and I tell you, we really shouldn't have done, especially given what else we'd already seen on this damn episode of Raw. Yes, I know. This was even more stupid than usual, because there's now a huge question mark over this, and I already know, again, look, they're educating me for the wrong reasons, that WWE will never tell me why. Because this is what went down. Halfway through the match, or I guess towards the end of it, on the big screen, somebody just went wah and smashed the play button so that Asuka could see Bayley was whooping Kairi Sane's ass. She was taking her, she was throwing her into gates and steel. It looked like Kairi Sane was maybe about to die. But this upset Asuka to such a degree, which I can understand, I get the sympathy, she's worried about her friend, that she abandoned the match, she went to the back to try and help, and because of that, the referee started counting, and it was also the fastest count out ever. He went like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and given the rules, per Stephanie last week, Sasha Banks is now your brand new Raw Women's Champion because she won via count out. Why didn't they just throw a banana skin on the floor, and Asuka could have gone whoop and slipped over, and then Sasha, she'd been drinking the whole time, so she slips and falls over. Why not just do that? It makes even less sense, because surely the better story here is that Sasha Banks loses, and that just enrages her and makes her even more jealous towards Bayley, who of course is the SmackDown Women's Champion, and that's why they can implode and eventually have their match. The problem is it just feels like a kick in the teeth every damn time you do get invested, and you want to see somebody win, and you want to see someone lose, and then you don't get it, or you don't get it in a serious, non-gaga way. And even if you wanted Banks to be the Raw Women's Champion, which I can get behind, she deserves a proper title run, just have her beat Asuka by cheating. She's meant to be a bad guy, and she's meant to be a giant dick. But this stuff happens every damn week, and it was the second count out on the show. If you knew you were gonna do this here, why did you count Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler out? And it also makes the bad part of me, that's like here, this is the bad part of me, go, what a moron you are, Asuka. I'm sure Kairi Sane could have taken care of herself, but you decided just to run away and sort this out. There was a bit afterwards too when Sasha Banks and Bayley were mocking Asuka, and she came out of the trainer's room and she was, she had water coming out of her eyes, not crying, water coming out of her eyes. And I guess the plan now is to do champion versus champion at potentially SummerSlam between Bayley and Sasha Banks. And once more, I can get behind that. What a marquee match. Just don't think this was the way to get here. Amazingly, after Asuka had done this and just poured her heart out and clearly proven she was sad, we cut to Tom Phillips, who went, it seems like Asuka is upset. Well, no shib, Sherlock. There was also a tribute video for Regis Philbin, who did pass away this week, and I just thought that was really nice. He has been long associated with WWE with a few projects or wrestlers going on his show, and as it turns out, he was a massive fan. Thoughts to his friends and family, couple of thumbs. Then the madness kept on coming, because it was Buddy Murphy, don't call him Buddy, versus Humberto Carrillo. But if Humberto is in the building, why didn't he come out earlier to try and stop Dominic and Aleister Black from basically being murdered? I mean, who books this stuff? It was me, I booked it, for you see, I really like Murphy, but I don't think he gets the respect he deserves. So I went, halabajam, and I made Humberto Carrillo appear, and I made a sneaky little match. So don't get too mad at me, the wizard in the sky. I'm just being biased, and I'm just picking my favorites until I get bored of them, and then I'll pick somebody new, but this is the WWE way. Either way, these guys are so good, they are so flipping good, and Murphy won after he hit the Murphy's Law, and doubly after he'd hit this knee thing when Humberto had jumped off the top rope. It looked great. He's getting it up. Also, have we talked about Murphy's new music? I don't believe we have. It sounds like boss music when you're fighting a boss in a Japanese RPG. I think it's fabu. Mark Henry was then speaking to Drew McIntyre. I have no idea why. Imagine you've never watched the show before. You'd be like, who is that? The WWE Champion then made his way to the ring, and I'm just gonna tell you this. If I was like a balloon of mystery, and I'm not in case you're wondering, but the way you filled me up with curiosity, then within around about 7 seconds, you would just pop me, and deflated I went. For starters, Drew just accepted Randy Orton's challenge, and we already talked about that. It just makes it feel so much more lackluster. And then, of course, he turned his attention to Dolph Ziggler, because it is the night he gets to choose their stipulation for their big match. I honestly thought the WWE was going to come up with something really exciting and creative too, but instead, McIntyre just went, oh, we'll just do another Extreme Rules match, but this time the rules apply for both of us. And it wasn't even for the title, even though 1 week, I went back and looked, 1 week ago, they absolutely said it was for the title. Why? Down.
It was me. I did it. But don't tell anyone. I just really love a good old-fashioned Extreme Rules match.
This was like that Simpsons episode where an executive goes, look, we need a new sidekick for Itchy and Scratchy. Call him Poochie or something like that. He then leaves and all the writers just look around and go, everybody all right with Poochie? That's what Drew McIntyre did when he came up with Extreme Rules number 2. As disappointing as that was though, my word, these two gave us everything. I'm going to presume to probably get some word of mouth going on Twitter and social media as fans went, everyone's got to tune into Raw because Dolph Ziggler, look at my weird thumbs, because Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre are absolutely pounding on each other. It is getting it up. I mean, at one point, McIntyre lawn darted Dolph Ziggler into the Perspex glass, which also exploded. And you just know somewhere Kevin Nash was smiling watching on. There was then low blows, steel chairs. At one point, Dolphy Boy got hurled through the barrier. And there was this table set up in the corner, which unfortunately didn't work for the old Ziggles. Because just as he was about to do something with his steel chair, Drew McIntyre rose up from the deep. He Claymore kicked Dolphy Boy through that table, and he got the 1, 2, 3. This was pure carnage as a match, and to have it as a Raw main event kind of made me go, we can't overdo this. But you absolutely should figure out a way to make these things as exciting as this one was. As you probably figured out as well, while Drew McIntyre was celebrating out of nowhere, but it wasn't from nowhere because again you could see it coming, there was Randy Orton. He gave him the RKO and he lifted that title up and looked into the camera as if to say, oh my gosh, in a month this will be mine and I can have it when I'm eating my Cocoa Pops. I do think it was a rubbish way to get there, but look, it absolutely was the right move. I want to see Drew McIntyre versus Randy Orton at SummerSlam. You need big-ass matches, and that is a big-ass match. B-A-M, bam. But in terms of Raw as a whole, it was kind of confusing, because the good bits, such as the main event, and again, Randy Orton, Drew McIntyre will be good in the #1 contendership. Then you had Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler craziness, and Bianca Belair and Ruby Riott didn't do anything apart from have a conversation with Mark Henry. Mustafa Ali losing still blows my mind, which means unfortunately, when we get our spinning arrow, this week overall has got to get it down. It wasn't a bad show, but we just made some really silly decisions. And like I've already said a few times, when you make water come from my eyes, not crying, there has to be consequences. Now, don't forget to leave a comment below and let us know what you thought about last night's episode of Raw. Like the video, share the video, subscribe to What Culture Wrestling, hit the bell too, ding ding. Head over to whatculture.com, read yourself some articles, follow What Culture on Twitter, What Culture WWE, and watch more videos here on What Culture Wrestling. My name is Simon from What Culture, and just a quick reminder to go and vote in that retro ups and downs poll in the community feed on YouTube right now. I look forward to seeing you on Friday, 2 p.m. BST, where, yes, I will go through a show from the year 2000 and I'll try and give you some information too about what was going on in the wrestling world. See you soon.